Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to work out the exercises on page number 2 of your homework 6.3. For all the exercises from 9 to 14 we have to solve and check. In number 9 we have to solve this equation, and negative n plus 8 is equal to 15. The first thing that we're going to remove is the positive 8, and then we will remove the negative. In order to remove the positive 8, we use the inverse operation, and that is subtract 8, which will give us negative n is equal to 7, because 15 minus 8 is 7, and the positive 8 and the negative 8, they combine to 0, so we're only left with negative n. Now we're not finished, because the n is not alone, is not positive. We have a negative in front of the n, and this is a negative 1 that is not written. So there is a multiplication of negative 1 by the n. So the way to remove the negative would be by dividing, or it could also be done by multiplying by negative 1. And if we do this, then we have n is equal to negative 7. Because 7 divided by negative 1, positive divided by negative is negative, and then these two negatives, negative divided by another negative, that give us positive. So this is the answer. Now that the variable is positive, is alone, that is the answer. For this one, I'm going to check. And in order to do the check, we copy the original equation, which is negative n plus 8 is equal to 15. And then we substitute the n with its value. And the value of n is negative 7. So this is what we have. We have a negative in front of the n, and then here I will put the value of n, and the value of n is negative 7. Plus 8 is equal to 15. So in this case, we have to be careful. This negative has nothing to do with the value of n. The value of n is negative itself, so we have a double negative here, which means that we would have at the end positive 7, because negative times negative, that gives us positive 7 plus 8. Positive 7 plus 8, that is 15. And on the right side, we also have 15. So this is true, and therefore our solution is correct. N is equal to negative 7. In number 12, we need to remove again two things. To solve for n, we need to remove the negative 14 first, and then the 3. Whatever is right next to the variable, that is the last step. So removing the 3 will be our last step. The first thing that we remove is negative 14. And we do it again using inverse operations. We look at the original operation. Here is subtraction, so we need to use addition. We add 14 right below the 14, and on the other side with the other number, we do the operations. Negative 14 plus 14, that gives us 0. So on the right side we only have 3n, and on the left side we have 4 plus 14, which is equal to 18. And the last step is to remove the 3. The 3 is multiplying with the n, so we need to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which is division, divided by 3, n by 3 on both sides. And that will give us n is equal to 6, because 18 divided by 3 is 6, and 3 divided by 3 is 1n, the one that we do not write in front of the n. And that would be the answer. This is the final answer, because the n is positive and it's alone, so n is equal to 6. I will not do the check for this one. I will leave the check for you to finish. In number 10, we only have one step to do because the only thing that we have to do is remove the -6 that is with the y. There is a multiplication here between the -6 and the y. So we need to use the inverse of multiplication, which is division. I will need here to divide by -6 and by -6 on the other side. And do the operation -54 divided by -6. Negative divided by negative is positive, and 54 divided by 6 is 9. And on the left side, -6 divided by -6 is +1. So this is the answer. Y is equal to 9. Only one step needed, and the y is alone and positive, so that's the answer. Again, I will leave the check for you to do. In number 13, we have a parenthesis, which means that we have to multiply the -5 by everything that is inside the parenthesis, and we do that using the distributive property. So the first thing that we do is multiply the -5 by the positive x, because here x is positive, and that will give us -5x, negative times positive negative, 5 times x, 5x, and the following step will be to multiply the -5 by the -6, and that will give us plus 30, because negative times another negative is positive, and 5 times 6 is 30, equal to -15. From there, we're going to remove the numbers that we have around the variable. We're going to start by removing the positive 30, and removing the -5 will be the last step because the -5 is together with the x. So we look at the operation, we have addition, so we need to use subtraction. Subtract 30 on both sides. Do the operation, and that leaves us -45 on the right side, because -15 minus 30 is -45. On the right side, -30 plus 30, they combine to 0, and we only have left -5x. In the final step, we just need to remove the -5. The -5 is multiplying with the x, so we need to do the inverse, which is division. Divide by -5 on both sides. And doing the operation, we have -45 divided by -5, that is +9, because negative divided by a negative is positive, and 45 divided by 5 is 9. And on the left side, -5 divided by -5 is simply +1x. So the answer here is x is equal to 9. That is the answer because the x is positive and it's alone. And again, I will leave the check for you to do it. In number 10, we have two steps to do because there are two numbers to remove, and we have to remember that the y belongs with the 2. So basically, this is 2y divided by 5 is equal to 10. The 2 is with the variable, so that will be the last step. So we start by removing the 5. Look at the operation that the 5 is doing. The 5 is dividing at this point. Therefore, we need to do the inverse of division, which is multiplication. We multiply on both sides by 5. And when doing the operations, we get 50 times 10 times 5, 10 times 5 is 50. And on the other side, we could take this 5 and divide it with this 5, which will give us simply 2y, which is equivalent to multiplying the 2 and the 5, so that's 5 times 2y, that would give us 10y, and 10y divided by 5 would give us 2y. So finally, we remove the 2. The 2 is multiplying right now, so we need to do the inverse, which is division. Dividing 50 divided by 2, we have 25 on the right side, and doing the division on the left side, 2 divided by 2 is 1y. And this will be the answer, the solution, since y is alone and it's positive, y is equal to 25. For this one as well, I will leave the check for you to do it. And in number 14, we again have to remember that the variable belongs with the 2, with the numerator, and the negative, you can move it up or you could move it down to the 3, but I will move to the 2. So this equation is the same as negative 2x divided by 3 plus 8 is equal to negative 4. So we need to remove 3 numbers from the variable so that the variable is left alone. The negative 2, which is right next to the variable, that will be the last step. The first step would be removing the positive 8, because that's the one that is farther away from the variable x. And so the middle term would be, or the middle step will be removing the 3. So we start by removing the 8 by using the inverse that we have here, addition. So we need to use subtraction. So negative 8 on both sides. Doing the operation, that leaves us negative 12 on the right side, because negative 4 minus 8 is negative 12. And these two, they cancel down to 0. Leaving only on the left side negative 2x divided by 3. Now we know that removing the negative 2 is the last step, so the next step right now is to remove the 3. The 3 is dividing at this moment, so we need to do the inverse, which is multiply by 3. Multiply by 3 on both sides. Doing the operations, we get negative 12 times 3, that is negative 36. And on the left side, this 3 with this other 3 that is on the denominator, they divide to 1. So we are only left with negative 2x on the left side. The final step, remove the negative 2. The negative 2 is multiplying with the x. And we do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we divide by negative 2. And doing the operations, we get negative 36 divided by negative 2, positive 18, because negative divided by another negative is positive, and 36 divided by 2 is 18. And on the left side, negative 2 divided by negative 2 give us 1, positive 1x. So the x is now alone and it's positive, so this would be the solution. X is equal to 18. For this one as well, I will leave the check for you to do. So please finish the checks and make sure you have the worksheet completed by now, page number 1 and page number 2, which you have to submit it to me the day of the exam.